I want to take a moment and talk about the difference between WordPress and Blogger, as those are the two most popular sites to use for blogging. As you can see, I have WordPress up here, and I'm just gonna hit create another blog just to walk you through the steps of creating the blog itself. So when you think about your blog address, you should already have a topic in mind. It should reflect whatever it is you are covering in your blog. So let's say I was going to create a blog for the Delta Writ. And name your blog, of course, again. Should reflect the content of your blog. Now, if for whatever reason in this class, if you want to blog about something, or you want to try out blogging, but you're a little nervous and you want to make it secure, you can make this private, and that's fine. Just let me know. Make sure I have access to it. So what we want is the free option. We don't need to register a domain name, though. You know, if you wanna go big and you have money to spend, you know, it's totally up to you. But you just need the free one for this class. All right. So you change your blog description or permission. So I'm gonna get rid of this tagline right here because I really don't need to advertise anymore for WordPress. It's in my address. So when we're in this general settings here, there is one area I want to point out, which is sharing. So this is where you can connect it to your Facebook, to your Twitter. Your Twitter, I would definitely recommend doing that, because part of the purpose of our Twitter account is to promote the content of our blog, and vice versa. They should, work together to, increase your chances of getting followers. Tumblr as well, if you have a Tumblr account, LinkedIn, whatever the case may be, share. The more you connect, the more likely you are to gather followers. So this is what you call your dashboard area, and this is definitely the difference between WordPress and Blogger, as this is kind of the area, and this, I think it seems a little bit more complex on WordPress. You look at appearance, you're going to see themes. You're going to want to pick a theme for your blog. So when you're picking your theme, you want to think somewhat, is my blog going to be very visual? Am I going to be featuring pieces of art, photographs? If so, then you want to keep that in mind. If it's going to be very textual, you want to definitely be looking for readability, and you want your text to be the star of the design. So kind of keep that in mind as you're looking through these. And most of them are free, but you see every now and again there's some that cost some money. So you can just search for all the free ones if you want. And you can get lost in the theme sections of both WordPress and Blogger. But it's a good kind of lost, where you get to just imagine. You can test them out. You can always change it later, so don't worry about it. And then once you pick it out, then there's definitely some more options about playing with the headers, playing with the colors. So this is all the area where you play it. So the only other part that I'm going to focus on at the moment is what they call the widgets. The widgets are the things that are going to appear on the sidebar of your blog. So the one that I would, Facebook like box. So say you create a group or a page that's complements your blog. You can definitely want to use that. The Twitter timeline, it's definitely the one that I recommend that everybody use. Twitter timeline just will show the most recent tweets that you've had. So it says follow me on Twitter, number of tweets to show. I would do 5. Widget ID. You need to create a widget at twitter.com and then add So that's all what you do right here, and it kind of gives you the preview of what it would look like. So create widget. You paste it right into the HTML of your site. Alright. I'm not gonna actually, yeah, I guess I'm not gonna hit save because I'm realizing that I'm creating a Delta Writing Center page and I wouldn't want my personal Twitter on there, but that's the process of doing that. So now looking at posts, and actually a better way to see kind of how this process will work is, you know, you're in My Blogs and you probably just have one, or maybe you have other ones. Start it. So this is usually what you're going to see when you open up WordPress after you've created the account. You go back and forth, add a new post. And this is a change. So if you used WordPress before, doesn't look quite the same as it did previously. So you name your post, of course, My Awesome Meal, and you add your text. Now, one thing to notice, you might think, oh, you know, it's underlining these words that are misspelled. I'm good if I just use this. Not always the case. Check this out. Like, I love bananas. I love oranges. Notice how it's not picking up that lowercase I. Now, if you type this in Word, Word would have already auto-corrected that, or it would have, you know, put the green underline or some sort of notation that you have an error. So Word is still a better editor than you're going to find on your Blogger sites. And because, you know, this is a writing class, it is an English designated class. If you have errors, too many errors in the text of your blog post, you will not receive the full credit for your blog. So definitely use the tools that are available to you. If it's Word, you know, type in Word first and then paste into here. And you'll see like all these screens pretty much look the same, whether you're on Blogger, whether you're actually in our discussion board, whether you're in WordPress. You know, paperclip always means link. And there's some different philosophies about the opening new window tab. You know, because you can always hit the back button to get back to the original site. I like to add a new window because I've had so many frustrations where I hit an X and then I lost the site I was originally on. But again, like I said, there's different philosophies involved, you know, that people hold, whether or not to, when you do a link, to open in the same window or open a new tab. So add media. Of course, this is kind of this is actually, since the last time I've been in WordPress, seems a little bit better. Insert tweet, YouTube, URL, playlist, create a gallery, set featured image. So you have a lot of options there, and you want to use them. A blog that is just text, unless you're, you know, like I have one that's related to my dissertation, which is strictly academic. It's acceptable in that case when my audience is a bunch of academics. But if your audience is, you know, movie buffs, or, you know, you're looking at recipes, you want visuals. So visuals definitely improve the look of your piece, the readability of your piece. But when you're thinking about readability, you want to think in terms of white space. You want to use block paragraphs instead of like just a heavy text with just indents. You know, always think about short paragraphs. Think about creating white space, you know, because that is what makes things easy to read. You don't want to white text on a black background, not easy to read. So really, really think about readability when you're doing your blog post. All right. Final component here on the bottom would be tags. You separated them with commas. So tags, you want tags. It helps, you know, you get picked up in the search engines. So two things help you show up in the search engines. links, having links in your text, and having tags. So, and you definitely, unless you already have an audience established, you want to be able to give yourself a chance to get picked up by Google, a Google search. So, add your tags. So your tag would be, you're cooking with almond butter, paleo diet, recipes, healthy, whatever you want to put in there. All right, so that's an overview of using WordPress. Blogger is not terribly different. I won't walk you through the steps of creating it because it's pretty much the same thing. You pick the name, you pick the theme, but there are some small differences. You see, this is kind of what your main page will look like. You can see that I use this a little bit more. For some reason, it just seems easier to me to use Blogger. Plus, I'm already signed into my Google account, so it's like one less sign in. So it's basically almost a matter of laziness more than anything. But the same kind of editing screen, only except where it had before insert media, they just had like the media icons here. So a little bit different. Same thing. Instead of tags, they call them labels. I don't know why. They can't just use the same terminology. The other difference is they don't call things widgets. They call them gadgets on here. So widgets, if you remember, when we did that drag and drop with Twitter. So to do that with Blogger, you need to go to the layout. You can see I already have my Twitter feed here. So you see that add a gadget. You want to add it on the bottom or add it on the sidebar. You just hit add a gadget. And then you just, obviously there's a ton of them. You hit more gadgets, you can actually search, so you can actually search for your Twitter or Facebook or whatever you want. And then again, it's just that drag and drop technology. And you can look at that's where you'd change your template to if you didn't like it. One of the nice things about Blogger is that you don't have to go into a dashboard. You don't have to use any of these things to add the sharing. The sharing is already embedded on here. So if you view this blog, you see these things. These things, I didn't have to add these. These already, that's just standard in Blogger. So that's probably one of the other reasons that I use Blogger. Is it's, a few things that are just standard that I want to use. Alright, so that is the overview of WordPress versus Blogger. As you can see, they're very similar. I think the biggest difference is the kind of the dash, WordPress has a dashboard. Here you have the menu that's kind of in this little icon. So maybe in some ways I guess you just have to play with them both if you're not sure after watching this video or based on your previous experience. Create a blog in both or create a template in both and then see kind of which one you like using the most. Alright, so that concludes my WordPress versus Blogger and blogging overview. If you have any questions, please send me an email. I'll be happy to make another video or answer whatever quick question you may have.